I want to use this comment to kind of dive in a little bit deeper into my interview experience and journey, and hopefully this could help a couple of you guys when it comes to your interviewing. And in this comment, you call out how you really like the fact that I was able to use the same story about being an educator, but tell it differently for your audience. And this is where the nerd part of me kind of comes out a little bit. Albert Einstein has a quote where he says, if you cannot explain it simply, you do not understand it well enough. And I think that translates very well into interviewing, right? What is it that you need to understand simply? Your story. You need to understand your story, your career story, your life story. You need to understand those things so that you can explain it simply, right? So once you develop this full story of like who you are, what you do, what you like, your career journey and stuff like that, now depending on who you're talking to or depending on what is asked, you're pulling from that story. You're not making anything up. So in the first story, you saw how we were very comfortable with each other. You felt like you were probably listening into two coworkers talking, like chopping it up, because the question that she started asking about education was her wanting to know more about my story. She wanted to dive deep into it. Her question was, you said that you wanted to leave. What age was that? That has nothing to do with project management. That has everything to do with wanting to get more of the story that you've been exposed to. And so I'm just going to pull from one area of the story to kind of tell you, okay, well, I used to work with second graders and they were very needy. They wanted me to break down a lot of stuff. And then when I got to high school, I had more appreciation for the elementary kids because now I'm breaking down that stuff in its simplest form. And then I took it to my life experience. I told her in my everyday life, I look at the big picture and then I break it down on how to get there. And then I tied it right back into project management. I'm looking at the big concepts, the big ideas, and breaking that down on how we're going to accomplish this. I understand my career story, my life story, and I've crafted this big story that I can pull from depending on who I'm talking to. Because if you fast forward to the next interviewer, which was the senior leader, I don't think I put the initial question she asked me, but she was asking me about like, you know, what happens. It was like a scenario about like communication because they're very big on that. Like what happens if, you know, you reach out or blah, blah, blah. And I was telling her like, you know, as an educator, I understand that in a classroom of 20 people, I need to adapt to them. They each learn differently. They each communicate differently. The same way that I reach out to Tom is not the same way I can reach out to Sally. The same thing applies in the workspace as a project manager. I have to work with these different teams, and I can't assume that my designers are going to communicate or receive my communication the same way that my web developers are going to receive it. You get what I'm saying? And because of all of that, that's why it looks like I'm just having a conversation. That's why it looks like I'm not nervous. I am not a fan of public speaking, but I know how to do it. The reason I know how to do it is because I'm confident in my story. The reason I'm here is because I'm qualified, right? Whether you're asking me to speak up in front of a group of people or you're asking me to be in an interview with a one-on-one, I know why I'm here. You know why I'm here. You get what I'm saying? So I just got to believe that I belong here and that my story is good enough to get me to the finish line. And it is. So you're probably wondering, well, like, how do I craft this story? How do I develop this story? It's going to require you to ask some deep questions. It's going to require you to put your career, your life, your experiences on display so that now you can find the connections. Now you can really integrate it all so you can develop this whole story. The good thing is you only have to do it once. And once you do it once, it becomes a cakewalk. With that said, you guys are more than welcome to hit the link in bio and we could kind of chop it up and help you figure that out. The brain picking, all of that. Just go ahead and schedule a one-on-one and we can do, you can just say we're doing a mock interview, whatever the case is. And let's get you that story so you're not bombing at the interview. Because babes, if they called you for the interview, you're literally this close to the job. Let's not drop the ball.